start, open your Bible to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5. Last week we started, and this is kind of a two-part lesson. Last week we took a look at what the Bible says about the law, God's law, how it was a guardian until we were brought to faith. And then we started in Matthew chapter 5, and we hear Jesus speaking about what it looks like living under the law and then what it looks like following him. And it's an interesting transition. It's an interesting transition because we are used to hearing Joshua's words in Joshua 1 chapter 8 where he says, "Let me meditate on your law day and night." And we hear David speak about God's law in such glowing, beautiful terms that we do kind of a maybe an unintended connection, that we take those ideas from David and Joshua because they're lovely ideas, and we kind of apply them to our own lives, and we tend to focus on thinking that our meditation on the Bible is the same as their meditation on God's law. And so it may have had unintended consequences. But what we're seeing with this comparison and what we're seeing with Jesus and his claims of fulfilling the law is that Jesus, our Lord and Savior, have made possible for us to meditate and be close to him every day, which is a completely different thing than meditating on God's law. That something new has come. New creation is here. And so we went through the beginning of Matthew chapter 5, and we see these examples of what is taught in the law versus what Jesus teaches. And we got through the first few of them, and so we are in verse 31. Verse 31, he makes another comparison. He says, "It was also said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that everyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of sexual immorality, makes her commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery." Now, this from the law comes from Deuteronomy 24, and it's not super specific. It was just if you had taken a wife and you had found a problem. You're already married. You've already gone through the wedding ceremony, and you've had the honeymoon, and something wasn't right. And so the law makes it possible for you to then divorce her, but you had to give her a certificate. The certificate was basically their vaccination passport, coming soon to an airport near you. This divorce certificate would basically say, hey, yes, I've been married, but I'm not trash. So I could still marry again. And so he says, look, if you're going to put away the wife of your youth, then you need to look out for her, and you need to take care of her. It may not have worked out, and you may not have been happy, but you need to make sure that she is taken care of. And in their society, of course, the way things were different and the way that women were treated, this was a necessary thing. So God is looking out for women from the beginning, and yet Jesus says, hey, here's a thought. How about let's stop looking for a way to get out of our covenants? How about we stop putting our energy in looking for an out, and let's be faithful to each other? Novel thought, right? But it's what it does, because in what Jesus is doing in all these examples, he's saying, look, yes, here's what the law said, and here's how you follow it. But I'm telling you that to be like me, to have the heart of God, to be a Christian means that you are not looking for bare minimums. You are not looking for that low hurdle that we talked about. You're going above and beyond. And so he says, since you're married, or if you are married, there's only one reason that you can be done. And other than that, you need to live your life as a faithful covenant holder with your spouse. Well, that's a radical idea. That is, fight to stay together instead of looking for a way to be apart. Okay, all right. Well, that sounds like good stuff. Work to stay faithful. So all of you that are married, all of you that hope to one day be married, work to stay faithful with your spouse. That's Jesus' way. Verse 33. In verse 33, again, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. Jesus takes this from Deuteronomy chapter 23. And in the law, that's a pretty good thing. Don't swear falsely, right? I mean, if you're going to swear, follow through. Follow through. So, that's a good thing. If you're gonna say, in our parlance, if you're going to say, I swear to God, then you better do it. You better do it. Jesus says, but I say to you in verse 34, don't take an oath at all. Don't take an oath at all, either by earth or by heaven. In other words, if you're going to have my heart, if you're going to be like me, if you're going to be like your Father in heaven, you don't need a special set of words or a power behind your words holding you accountable to be faithful. How about just be people who are faithful to their word? Just do that. Just be people who are faithful to your word. So in verse 34 he says, don't take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is the footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. So let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. So, Deuteronomy chapter 23, in the law, in God's law, it says, don't swear falsely. Don't make a promise or say you're going to do something and then not fulfill it. God's not a fan. God is not a fan. If you say that you're going to do something for God, then you do it. Now, I don't know, when we try to relate to this, when we try to relate to this, because we don't really do this exactly the way that they had a problem with doing it, because Jesus is saying basically, okay, look, you got so specific as to say, well, I swear by the temple. And swearing by the temple, well, that's just a temple, but I swear by the gold in the temple. Or I swear by the altar in the temple. Trying to be so specific and saying, well, if I swear by this certain thing, that's going to keep me honest. That's going to hold me accountable. And Jesus comes along and says, no, it's not the things in the temple, it's not the altar or the parts of the temple that make you accountable to your promises. You just be people who are good with their word. You just be known as those who if you say, I'm going to do this, then you do it. Just let your yes and your no be known as yes and no. That's a good idea, isn't it? To be known as people who say, if I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. If I say no, I'm going to avoid that, then I avoid that. That's the kind of people that Jesus says we need to be, is be an honest person. Be an honest person. Keep your word. Keep your word. So, where are we? Where are we tempted to have a hard time with just our yes and our no? Where do we struggle with this? Where is this a problem for us? Where do we want to go beyond yes and no?
When something becomes less convenient for us.
Okay. All right.
We promise someone, oh yeah, we'll go do this or that or whatever, but if something else comes up, you're like, that's really not convenient for my time, or something else more, I guess, fun comes up, you're like, but I've already promised them I'm going to do this. So there's more, more fun or whatever,
Okay. All right. So we're good at making ourselves available for someone or something until a better offer comes along. And then we rethink our promises, right? It's like, well, do I really want to? Maybe they'll let me out. Maybe they'll understand. They'll understand. I think that's a great example. And I think we take that very lightly, don't we? For ourselves. We let ourselves off the hook by saying, well, I know I said that I could do that or I would do that, but, I got this, and so, that's what Jesus is talking about. You just said yes, do the yes. So I think that's a great example. Anybody else?
I sometimes say that I read the terms of agreement. I've decided that it's okay, but it makes me happier.
You read the terms of agreements. You clicked, I agree, and I read that without having read the whole thing through.
Does not mean I read
No,
it.
it says it's like, I've read and I agree.
To the terms and agreements. It's just inconvenient. That's good. That's good. Do you ever get caught in the, I don't know, does anybody ever still get caught in the bargaining with God? You take care of this, Lord, and I'm going to fill in the blank. Or, Lord, we really need you here. It's a financial situation, and you know what? There's a windfall. God's taking care of us, and so Sunday, I'm going to take care of you, Lord. And we get to Sunday, and we're like, but does he really need my stuff? Does he really? Could it be just, Lord, I know I said I'd do this much, but, you can live with that much. Right? Tony?
I was going to say, for me, it usually comes from the sense of procrastination. I'm not going to do it now, but I promise I'll do it later.
The promise of later. I like it. Yeah.
I've got something else I've got to do now, but I promise I'll get it done by so-and-so time.
Yeah, which is why all of us guys laugh and share those memes, and all of our wives rolled their eyes when we said, I said I was going to fix that. And I said it.
Every 6 months?
Yeah, there's no need to remind me every 6 months. Yeah, I said I would do it, I'll do it. Yeah, which all of us guys are like, yeah. All of our wives are like, yeah. All right, in verse 38, he goes on to the next section, and he said, you've heard that it was said, straight out of Leviticus 24, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. They do to you, so you do to them. And again, much of those who are faithful, much of Christians are like, well, yeah, we're not like the world. I mean, the world says they do to you and you do to them twice as much, right? I mean, it's sad, but how many of us have not allowed the Joe Pesci mobster retaliation rules creep into our own subconscious lives? They come with a bat, you come with a gun, If they're going to hit you, then you hit them harder so they learn the lesson and they never repeat that. And even just the old law for retaliation was keep it right there. And if someone causes harm, you get to harm them back. Someone causes damage, you get to inflict the same amount of damage. They did something, so you can do it. So we're just always right there. It's in the law, and so it's good. And Jesus says, yeah, but there's better. There's better. And I say to you, maybe one of the hardest phrases in the Gospels, do not resist the one who is evil. Do not resist the one who is evil. Now, I posit that if we truly lived, do not resist the one who is evil. 8 words. 8 words. I think those 8 words may be more radically changing than a lot of other 8 words in the Bible. Because, I don't know about you, but I hear them, and it just sounds insane. Do not resist the one who is evil. What? Well, I at least like, eye for an eye. I know where I stand. You hurt one of mine, we hurt one of yours. You kill one of mine, we kill 2 of yours. Because at least, I don't know, I'll feel better? I'll be able to sleep at night? Because I vanquished evil? Vanquished evil with evil? I'm pretty sure the Bible talks about that. That no matter what evil we can bring to the party, evil is never overcome with evil. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's not possible in our human form. And so Jesus says, do not resist the one who is evil. Okay, don't resist the one who is evil. So instead of getting even, we're just not going to resist an evil person. We're not going to resist someone who causes us harm. So Jesus, what exactly does that look like? What do you have in mind, per se? Because this is an odd request. I mean, you're telling me to follow you is better, and I'm having a hard time in my brain trying to work out how that's going to be better. How's it going to be better for me not to resist an evil person? He says, well, verse 39, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. Okay? So I'm not going to resist the evil person if they cause me violence. I'm going to let them violence me more? If anyone would sue you and take your shirt, well, give them your coat too. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. Do not resist the one who is evil. Turn the other cheek. If they sue you, that is, wrongfully take something of yours, they demand something of yours with the power of the courts behind them, and give them more than they ask for. If they force you to, and going 1 mile, that was a kind of a Roman thing, that they could force you to help carry their equipment, and they could force you to go 1 mile. That was the law. That was the law of the land. The law of the land. Which, again, you've heard the stories how they would have 1 mile out of town, like it would be marked. And so you would carry the soldier's pack the 1 mile, you hit that rock, and you would dump that stuff not an inch further than the mile you were required to go. And Jesus says, well, let's not resist those evil people. And if they force you to go that 1 mile, because they have the power of the law behind them, you have to go this 1 mile. You just keep that backpack on your shoulders, and you just say, hey, let's double it. Because Because, most of the people, and again, those who are following the old law are doing everything they can to do as little as they can. Whether you grew up with Calvin and Hobbes, you know where I'm going, or Bart Simpson a little bit later, you youngins are gonna have to give me a good, a timely reference. That we laugh at people who work so hard to not do any work. Right? That we will put forth a ton of effort to not be fruitful. And so those that are following the law are like, look, all we got to do is get back to even. And Jesus says, no, actually, beyond. Beyond. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. And, to hear Jesus just say, don't resist an evil person, give them more than they ask for. I mean, anybody else challenged on a regular basis by such a thing?
Yes. According to my study Bible, it explains verse 39 this way, because this says, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, well, if you're going to slap someone to hurt them, you're going to use your right hand, but you're going to actually slap them on the left cheek. So if you slap them on the right cheek, you're actually doing a backhanded slap, which is an insult. So this explanation is, if someone insults you by giving them a backhanded slap on the right cheek, then don't insult them back. To me, that explains it. It's not like you're attacking them to hurt them. You're insulting them. At least
Yeah. Yep. No, there's a ton of those scenarios in which Jesus is describing specifically, and I've taught this section before. I have in the past delved in those. I got to be honest though, I am just painfully challenged just to hear his simple words of don't resist evil. It hurts. It just flat out hurts, because yes, but if you are going to stand up to the one who insults you, you are now offering yourself to further damage. And you're not defending yourself, right? They did a little to you, and he says let them do more. Same thing with the lawsuit, right? They're suing you for a little bit, offer more. They're forcing you to go 1 mile, double it. Jesus' ethic of how you treat your enemies is crazy. By worldly standards, it's just nuts. Because we all know that if you give them an inch, they'll take because everyone takes advantage of everybody. And you know what? Did you guys see, Jim Carrey had a movie, I don't know when. It's in the zeitgeist of my memory. He had a movie called Yes Man, and he had to say yes to everything. He could not say no. If he said yes to everything, then it would all work out. And if he said no, it would all fall apart. And he had to say yes. And so, of course, he's in a bad part of town, and a homeless guy, I think, starts by asking him for a few bucks. And he says, yes, and so he pulls out his wallet, gives him some money, and the homeless guy sees the wallet, and he goes, oh, well, can I have more? Yes. Can I have your wallet? Yes. Can I borrow your car? Yes. And so he has to basically say yes to everything, and the homeless guy's like, I have all your money. It's about to rain, and I have your car, and I'm leaving you here in the downtown with no recourse. It is. It was. Of course, it's funny, because it is insane. It absolutely is. And same thing here. What Jesus is teaching, it's according to worldly standards, it is not normal. It It is not. It is not what he is calling people that says, hey, look, it's not about you just doing that minimum of the law of, okay, well, I've done this much, and God said do that much. I've done that much. Me and God are square. And if you view your relationship to me and God are square because I followed his rule to the T, good luck, because me and God are never going to be square. I can't square with God. I can't get me to, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point. And I mean, but does Jesus not do this very same thing? He says, look, all I ever did was told them the truth and do good things to them, and look what they did to me. You're nowhere near as nice as I am, or as good. What do you think they're going to do to you? I mean, honestly, we call ourselves Christians, but we are watered down, cheap versions of our Lord and Savior. Yet with the same confidence, we hold on to our confession of faith, and we don't think people are going to abuse us, treat us poorly. Whoa, sorry. That hurt as it was coming out. That's not a word. Poorly. Poorly. Ooh. That did. That hurt. That did. Ugh. So, don't resist the one who is evil. Give to the one who begs from you. You know, if we were challenged just to do one of these things that he says right here in these little verses, just one of them for the week, you know how tough that would be? Just one of them. Just one. We'd be hiding in our house for 7 days straight. I'm calling in sick. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah?
I've got 3 little beggars.
You have 3 reasons to say no, huh? All right. 3 little beggars. Hey, whoa. Gentlemen, Michael didn't say it. Always take that to him. Jesus said it. Mine's not color-coded, but yours may be the letters in red. Yeah, Michael didn't say it. Jesus said it. Yeah.
Mamas can ask things too.
They sure can.
They can say you're not allowed to talk right now.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That game with mamas.
That's right. If they think that they can play that game, that's right. Absolutely.
To be honest, Michael, it really sounds like what I do every day, like in customer service. If someone's gonna come up to you and start treating you like garbage, all you really do is, have that day. I mean, that's all I really can do. Like, not resisting evil people, taking garbage from people for doing absolutely nothing but what I'm supposed to be doing. That's my whole day.
Christianity is a custom.
So, I mean, well, you laugh, but it is, like, and that's what I do all day, is take garbage from people and smile and say, have a nice day. But thinking really loud, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I mean, you think it real loud, but
thoughts also.
true, but I don't say those ones to the customers. God's allowed to hear those. But, I mean, that's just what it is. And granted, I get a paycheck for it, but it's the customer service in the life.
Yeah. It is.
It's actually kind of sad to think about now.
Well, hey, we got that far. Again, not far enough. We got that far, and I think that is challenging enough to try to wrestle with this week. I mean, again, and you know, you're talking about your commentary, talking about the specifics and the details of that. I shared this last week. I've absolutely heard the sermons preached, and I've read the commentaries, and just straight up, people just interpret this as, well, Jesus is showing an impossible standard, that it's not really meant to be lived up to, that he is showing you thought the law was hard, just following those letters. I'm perfect, and again, he's going to end the whole thing, newsflash, and some of you will be outside next Wednesday. He's ending the whole thing with saying God's perfect. But he also ends the whole thing with saying, you need to be like him. He's perfect, and so how you live your faith, it needs to be perfect as well. It needs to be complete. It needs to be full, not lacking anything. And that is our standard. Our standard is not How little can I get away with in loving my neighbor and loving my enemy and not resisting evil? What's the bare minimum that I can do and still put a smile on my face and come to church and be okay? It's how far do I need to go to show this person what love looks like? That's sacrifice. So I appreciate you sharing, and we'll jump into it next week.